Another Tenet video? Come on, how many are you going to make? As many as it takes! Bloody hell, I need to keep my mind busy while I wait for the release date. Talking about Tenet is the only thing that keeps me sane, alright? This time I had wasted hours researching, collecting, and adapting into human words 10 craziest theories about the upcoming sci-fi spy flick from our beloved Christopher Nolan. As always, spoiler warning in case any of these theories might come true. If they do, don't come crying to me. To be honest, I have covered so many potential things that might be in Tenet that at this point there's just no way that I can be surprised by the movie itself. Oh well, at least there's still Dune coming out. I should make a video about that actually. Anyway, my name is Mr. Feature, and without further ado, let's delve in. We start with probably the craziest and most talked about theory, which kind of confirms that Tenet is in the same universe with Inception. So the theory goes that the character of Pattinson is the son of Cobb from Inception, named James, and Clemency Posey is the daughter, Philippa. In fact, it further makes sense that Posey has a French accent as her mother is also French, played by Marion Cotillard. Boom, mind blown, right? Connection confirmed, expect a cameo from Leonardo DiCaprio in Tenet. Well, not so fast. I have a couple of problems with this theory. First, it's absurd to think that Michael Caine plays the same role in both movies. A relatively conservative and simple professor is suddenly consulting top secret agents about certain Russian individuals? Sounds highly unlikely. Also, how can James and Philippa be brother and sister, and yet Pattinson clearly doesn't know much about the time travel, while Philippa is at the very center of its technology? Sounds kinda dodgy. Although age-wise it could make sense, as if Philippa is 4 years old and James is around 3, in Inception we could suggest that Tenet happens 25 years later. But how come Michael Caine just stopped aging? Not to mention that such connection would seem rather pointless and only distract the audience from the main story of the Tenet. Oh, maybe I am a killjoy, well, whatever, but this is what I think. Don't get your hopes up, guys. Anyway, moving on. I bet a lot of you just made the sound. But yes, there is an actual theory that Tenet is set within a popular multiplayer trash game, Fortnite. The speculation arose after a Tenet trailer premiered inside the game itself. Also, Christopher Nolan apparently is a big gaming fan. Yes, what are the chances that of all games, Fortnite is his favorite, right? And with more and more trailers debuting inside the game, and movies like Avengers Endgame making the game a part of their own canon, would it be that surprising if we realized that John David Washington will be inside this game itself? Yes, it would be actually, and that's the whole point, which makes it even worse. Not gonna lie, I absolutely hate this theory, but it's worth to be mentioned as it is hella fucking crazy. But if it's true, Nolan is dead to me. Okay, so this one was kind of on my mind long before I heard about the Maxwell demon and the door between real and inverted world. Don't know what I'm talking about? Check out this video right here, which breaks down what Tenet is all about and how time travel is most likely going to work in the movie. But for now, let's get back to our parallel worlds. So I had this idea, and I'm sure that many people did. I definitely don't think I'm smart enough to have pioneered this thought. But anyway, the idea is that there are not infinite parallel worlds, but just two. In one of them, time runs backwards, towards the Big Bang, not from it. What's funny is that just as I thought of this theory, some real-world scientists suggested that we might have evidence for such universe existence in our actual realm. Here is a quote from their findings. In 2016, our observatory detected some signals best described as anomalous, evidence of a high-energy particle, extremely high-energy nutrients coming from the Earth's surface, but no source. That seemed impossible according to the New Scientist article, which went on to state that explaining the signal requires the existence of a topsy-turvy universe created in the same Big Bang as our own and existing in a parallel with it. In this mirror world, positive is negative, left is right, and time runs backwards. What they are essentially saying is that this particle is not in fact coming from Earth, but is coming towards it, just in reverse time, kind of like a shadow of the mirror world. So that even further fueled my theory about how in Tenet we would have discovered that parallel world and were able to essentially jump the train, or in this case worlds, for everything and anything that we might need from the past. So essentially you can enter the reversed world in 2016, live there until 2010, and then come back out on our side in 2010. But this of course would cause a lot of paradoxes and would make the two worlds linked way too closely together, making them essentially one world with two sides. But this does sound very cool, I have to say, and I think this could be the next most plausible explanation for how the time travel will work in Tenet if Maxwell Demon's door theory turns out to be wrong. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Moving on. Okay, this one is coming from a Reddit user with a deleted name, and it's essentially making John David Washington one of those weird kind of angel agents from the movie Adjustment Bureau. Really good watch, by the way, I highly recommend. Anyway, what the theory suggests is that John is no action hero, soldier, agent, nothing like that at all. He's actually a simple time-traveling clerk. Well, not really time-traveling, but more like time-visiting. What he does is traveling to the aftermath of a certain catastrophe or accident, and he tries to reverse engineer this event to understand what caused it in the first place and what is the best way to prevent it. So he's kind of like a fixer. It may sound boring, sure, but were any of Nolan movies boring? Exactly. Absolutely not one of them. No way. Can't name a single one, I bet. I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. And so he just traverses the world and perhaps is pinned against the character of Branagh because the latter is trying not to get in the way of destiny. So we will see some sort of conflict of two philosophies, which can be understood best on the principle of the trolley problem. It's a popular philosophical thought experiment, and it goes something like this. There is a trolley, or tram, coming, and there are 5 people lying unconscious on the rails, which means they cannot escape their death by this tram. However, you have a chance to switch the lever and the tram will go on another set of tracks, where there is only one unconscious man laying there. This problem presents a lot of ethical conundrums, but the most important one is, should you let the world unfold on its own, or should you intervene at any point where you have the ability to minimize the damage? In this case, John David Washington would be the one to switch the tracks, and Branagh would do his best to stop him from doing so. To be honest, I'm kind of interested in this concept, although I do believe that the movie will be a bit more complex than that. But the theory is still pretty cool. Kudos to the creator, whoever you are. Let's continue. Okay, this one comes from a Reddit comment by the user Scorpion0511, and the theory is yes, about aliens. Honestly, I included it not because it makes sense to me, but because it doesn't, because it's so batshit crazy. So the comment goes, Tenet means any religion's main ideas or principles. Religion? Check. Afterlife and isolated time manipulation. Quantum mechanics? Check. World War III. Catastrophism? Is that a word? Messages often received by messengers of gods, even alien abductees. Check. Conclusion. Literally alien invasion, like someone is summoning ancient aliens. Holy Jesus Christ. So technically, if you really try to stretch the logic of the trailer for Tenet, you can't really exclude the possibility of World War III being caused by aliens. But in this case, because we have time travel at play, imagine that Tenet is a sequel to Edge of Tomorrow. Remember that in that movie, the aliens had a technology of time travel where they were able to predict every move of humans. What if this movie is not necessarily a sequel, but the opposite scenario here, where Tenet agency will try to predict how aliens plan to attack us? My fucking head hurts from this, Jesus. I don't think this is true at all, to be honest, but who knows? I mean, I guarantee that we will have some big revelation in the movie that will be on par with aliens, in terms of shocking us, of course. Mark my fucking words, this is gonna be wild. This one is quite easy to explain. John David Washington will cause World War III in the future by coming from the past. He just doesn't know it yet, so he has to fight himself from the future in the future. Okay, fine, not so easy to explain after all. But this theory is a bit of a paradox, actually. In a nutshell, John David Washington in the future, when he's about 50 years old or so, will turn into a villain and will cause World War III. But the John David Washington that we will see for the most of the movie is a 30-year-old one who will try to stop World War III. Of course, this would mean that John David Washington is doomed to always
live long enough to see yourself become the villain,
unless he finds a way to break the time loop and the paradox itself. Just recently in TV series Dark, we learned that that is possible actually. As if something isn't possible in a work of fiction, duh. But in any case, I actually think this is extremely likely to be the case. In fact, I might even go as far as to say that Branagh's character works for John David Washington from the future, and his job is to guide the young version of Washington from the past to become his future self.
How would you like to die?
old.
You chose the wrong profession.
This right here may be the biggest clue, as maybe Branagh knows that John will not die of old age but of something else. To go even deeper into this theory, Aaron Taylor Johnson might be playing the younger version of Branagh, who will become friends with John David Washington, and eventually would have to go back in time to guide young John David Washington on his path to World War III. As confusing as it may be, this makes a lot of sense. The only question I would have is, why would John cause World War III? What possible villainous plan could justify such a drastic measure? Who knows, but it is interesting. And let's go on to the next one. Well, this one half of the internet has signed up for already. In all of the promo campaigns for this movie, including the trailers, Pattinson ticks a lot of boxes which hint at his character's double-faced nature. He has villainous hair, he has both American and British accent in the trailers, he just has that suspicious look at all times, like he's setting everyone up for something. In some parts he seems to be a complete amateur who is trained by John David Washington, but in others he seems to be the leading party of the scene. With all of this considered, there is a good chance that this dude will be someone nor we nor John David Washington should trust. The only real question is, who is he truly working for? Is he actually the villain? Or just some guy who has his own idea of what is right? Who knows? It seems that we would have to wait for the movie to find out. Now, this one is one of those theories that sounds absolutely absurd at first, but the more you read on it, the more it starts to make sense. This one was proposed by Reddit user DMO224, who says, Tenet contains a war story between renewable energy proponents and more traditional fossil fuel/nuclear energy interests, in a bid to mitigate the effects of radioactive waste and carbon pollution, as well as regenerate more of the substance that makes the traditional energy people wealthy and powerful. They try to employ a reverse entropy machine to manipulate the Earth, returning it to a state of greater environmental health, with, among other things, more oil, minerals, natural gas, uranium, back in the Earth's crust, which they can dig up and exploit all over again. The scheme goes awry though, threatening everyone on the planet. Now, the idea of reversing the state of Earth to double its natural resources sounds genius. In fact, I'm sure that many real-world governments who saw this theory will now double their effort in creating a time machine. But the question is, how on earth... see what I did there? Can you reverse our planet's fossil fuel specifically, without reversing the rest of us? That is a very good question, but even from the trailer we know that certain objects can be inverted, as the bullet that is traveling backwards in time. Perhaps there is a way to invert the universe itself, but keep the people traveling forwards in time? That opens the door to so many possibilities. And judging by how the climate issues had become extremely loud lately, I can easily imagine an actual war erupting between the proponents on either side. If this is the case, this will truly be one of the most unique movies ever. Finally, this is something I briefly mentioned already above, but this may be a central Tenet theory rather than one of the smaller plot twists. So I believe if this is true, it can go something like this. We see a shot of the biggest character with someone who is clearly her son. We know this guy's name is Max, thanks to the IMDb credits. We also see that the Debicki is close to Kenneth Branagh, and because of this shot right here, where they hold hands, it commonly is accepted that they are romantically involved. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. They could be sharing a mother-son moment too. In fact, we might see 3 versions of this character, one played by this little boy, one played by Kenneth Branagh, and one played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. Maybe when he was in his 20s, 30s, this character was working for Tenet and he realized how Tenet is a corrupt organization who needs to be stopped. Who knows? But this also nicely ties into my theory about John David Washington being the central villain of the movie. And this theory is quite sound, I believe, as we do deal with time travel after all in this movie, and Kenneth Branagh can allegedly communicate with the future because he is from the future, and because of how much secrecy there is around Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. God, I swear this movie hasn't come out yet and it's already giving me like the worst headaches ever. But the real question here, guys, is what are your theories about Tenet? Share them down below with me in the comments, let's talk about it. Do you agree with any of the theories above? Which one is your most favorite? Which one is your least favorite? There is a lot to choose from. If you enjoyed this video, I will kindly ask you to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. I'm sure that this is not the last Tenet video I will be making. Many thanks for watching, and I wish you a nice day ahead. Thanks again, guys, and see you in the next one.